Hello everyone, Zellerant here, and for today's video with Girls Frontline 2, we're going to be taking a look at Springfield and her kit, as she is the upcoming unit that a lot of people, including myself, are going to tell you you absolutely should pull for. So first, let's go ahead and get a look at her passive here. So on her passive, Eagle's Vigilance. So the first part here, if Confectance Index is at a maximum after attacking, decreases Confectance Index to 0 and gain extra action. So this is basically what her Confectance Index is tied to. You're basically going to accumulate it to get max, and then after that, she gets an extra action for that turn. And then the second part, at the start of turn, if Springfield's HP is above 80%, she gains Insight for 2 turns. That just basically is that extended range that you see on all the snipers. If the target that Tara is following deals damage to an ally, activates counterattack, dealing hydro damage equivalent to 20% of Springfield's max HP, 1 stability damage, and restores HP equivalent to 20 to that ally. And this can be activated twice per round. Big thing with Tarez is, while it's a summon in essence, it's not a summon like Nikita's or Floance's, where it's actively on the field and can be targeted by the enemy to take to count towards mechanics that require having more than the 5 allies on the field. So like the boss, where it says if this attack hits 6 enemies, they get a defense down. Tarez cannot count towards that. So that's the kind of the one negative of Tarez. The other part with Tarez is you're going to see everything that Tarez does damage-wise scales off of HP, while everything that Springfield does scales off attack. So Springfield is actually one of those units that's going to be unique in that you're going to build her differently based on how many dupes you get her. Because as you get more dupes of Springfield, Tarez is going to start ramping up damage, and she goes from just being a support to now a support damage dealer, where you're going to want HP over attack. So that's kind of that there. Then the last part here is if Tarez is on the field, at the end of Springfield's action, restore HP equivalent to 20% max HP. Alright, so that is her passive overall. So let's just go ahead now get into her skills. Basic attack, nothing special here, it's just your standard basic attack. I don't think you're ever going to use it, because if you look at her first skill 1 here, Intelligent Tactics, you don't have to worry about Confectance Index because all that cost is tied to her passive. No cooldown here. And so stability damage 4, so and when in doubt, you can just cast this one for doing damage. Select an enemy target within a 9-tile radius, applies False Intelligent to the target for 2 turns, damp on the target for 1 turn, and deals hydro damage equivalent to 130% attack to it, and then increases Confectance Index by 1 point. So a big thing here, False Intelligence is increasing the stability damage they take by 2 points. If their instability break, increases hydro damage they take by 10%, and it's a hydro type debuff that gets applied. So really nice there. You then have Damp, which to me, Damp's not too crazy of a skill unless it's a boss specifically that you want it on. Because this one reduces healing received by 40%, and then upon receiving 2 stacks of that, it gets converted to congestion for 2 turns, which you can have 2 stacks of that as well, and basically that prevents them from being healed. So that's going to be very specific to mechanics, where maybe a boss heals himself. So it can be very, very good, but very situational on that one. But overall, the False Intelligence is pretty good to it. And then she does damage based on her attack to the enemy. But she is a support unit, and so she's not going to be a big attack damage dealer unless you invest in dupes. But if you're investing in dupes, you're going to be using HP scaling gear. So she's still not going to do much damage herself. It's Tarez that's going to do all the damage. Let's look at skill 2 here, Celestial Aid. So no cost, no cooldown. So this one you can spam as well. Selects an ally within a 9-tile radius, restores their HP equivalent to 100% attack and 3 stability, and then applies Overflowing Care for 2 rounds. Duration decreases at the end of the current round. So that basically at the current round that she applies it, it reduces it by 1 on that one. And then also increases Confectance Index by 1 on this one as well. So this one is a nice little heal here, and then it puts Overflowing Care on the ally, which is after carrying out a command, after dealing damage, or after receiving damage, the holder restores HP equivalent to 5% of the caster's attack at the end of action. If the holder is at maximum HP, additional healing is converted into increases in hydro damage. So this is going to be the skill you're going to cast a lot more often than skill 1. Even if they're at max health, it's converting the overhealing to damage. And for every additional healing equivalent to 1.5% of the caster's attack, increases hydro damage dealt by 1% up to a maximum of 35%. So to me, this is something you're going to be casting on someone like Tololo or Nikita to get to that, try and get to that 35% to increase their damage. And then this is considered a hydro buff and cannot be dispelled. So that's really a nice right there. To me, this is going to be your more important skill because, especially if you're at V0 or even V1, Springfield is not your damage dealer. It's your other units like Tololo and Nikita. And then there's more that comes into this when it comes to dupes, which we'll look at after we look at this, the ultimate here. So Path of Protection, the ultimate, AoE and summon. This one does have a cooldown of 3 turns, confectance cost of 0. So selects an enemy target within a 9-tile radius, summons Taras that follows that target for 2 rounds. The Taras is that summon that we discussed in the passive. The duration decreases at the end of the current round. It applies damp and false intelligence to that enemy. So this one's already a way, your ultimate's a way to get false intelligence on the enemy, making the value of skill 1 even a little bit less valuable, because you get both of them from this. And so it does that to all enemies within the 3-tile radius of that target for 2 turns, and then deals AoE hydro damage equivalent to 80% attack. And then on the second part here, applies buried bonds and overflowing care to all allies for 2 rounds. The duration decreases at the end of the current round, restores HP equivalent to 100% attack and 2 stability. So this is a big heal. And then cleanses 1 debuff and cleanses taunt and fear. So buried bonds is built into that one. And this is a really big buff for your team. Increases HP equivalent to 100% of the caster's max HP. When this buff expires, the holder restores HP equivalent to 100% of the caster attack. So a massive increase to the overall health. And then as soon as this buff ends, then they get a massive heal on top of it. So you can think similar to how Suomi gives massive shields to give a very large effective HP. You get, instead with Springfield, you're now getting the equivalent of that, just in extra HP versus shields themselves. But this is the one negative you can kind of see with that is any units that have triggers that are based off a percent of HP, because at least like with Suomi shields, if the shield gets damaged, they still have 100% HP. So someone like Macchiato, who has conditions that require 80% HP, that's very good for. With Springfields, it's not going to be as good for because they can still go below 80% HP, even if it's significantly higher than what their normal HP is. But the teams that she works the best with, that's not really a problem anyway. But that's just one thing to note that is a negative of this over, say, a shield. But the teams she's acquainted with don't care about that. I just thought I'd make the note of that here. So you have that. You have the overflowing care, where the overabundance of healing is converted to being able to do more damage. Does that for 2 rounds. You cleanse a debuff, so she cleanses debuffs, and can cleanse taunt and fear. And then the last part is when the target that Taras is following dies, it automatically follows the enemy unit with the highest HP next, which is very important. That's going to be dealing with like the bossing and all that. Increases Confectance Index by 2 points on itself. And so as you can kind of see here, you can kind of see the rotation going around on it. It's almost like you do these. You can probably go like skill 1, skill 2, or skill 2 twice to skill 3. And with the cooldown of 3 turns, you just rotate through. And after you do that full rotation, you should be at the max amount of Confectance Index to get an extra turn, which I think will be on her ultimate. So you do her ultimate and then lead right into one of her other skills here. So the rotation's fairly smooth from what I can tell here. But the big thing with her, well, let's look at her, first let's look at her fixed keys, and then we'll look at her dupes, because I think her dupes, especially her V1, are very important to look at with her. Fixed key 1, Path of Protection. When this skill is used, puts all targets towards the center by 3 tiles. This is actually a very good one that she's going to have, because you're going to be, her best team that she pairs well with is Corrosion, the Hydro Corrosion hybrid. And so what this can do is take all the enemies within the range of that skill, which, as you can see how big this skill is, and brings them down into the center by 3 tiles. Makes it so much easier so Klukai can use her ultimate to hit all of the enemies. So you have Springfield pull them all in, Klukai comes in and kills them all. So really good. Still, it's kind of situational, but it's a really good one for her to have, to pull all the enemies in. And then you have Fixed Key 2. Before using an active attack, dispels 1 buff from the target. She has a Dispel. A lot of bosses have conditions to dispel buffs from them to trigger some good stuff for your team. So that's always good. It's always good to have a Dispel available within your Fixed Keys. Fixed key 3, if Tara is on the field, increases defense for all allies by 10%. Just a flat 10% increase in defense. Really nice on that one. Tara should be on the field. Like, you should keep him on the field as much as possible. If the target's HP is lower than 80%, increases healing efficiency by 15%. Not that big a deal. Healing's never really been a problem in this game, but she can do more healing, I guess. And then fixed key 5, before using an active attack, applies Hydro weakness to the target for 1 turn. Really nice right there. So you can get Hydro weakness onto the enemy that way. And then fixed key 6, when healing an ally in stability break, additionally restores 2 stability. Like I said, healing's not as big of an impact in the game. She already overheals by a significant amount. So those ones I'm not too worried about. But overall, her other ones are all pretty good. With basically, to me, the Dispel and the increase in defense being like the main ones you'll always want to put on. And then situationally, the other 2 that are not the heals. Affinity key, attack, defense, HP. Not really a fan of this common affinity key here. Then our common key, HP plus 5% at the start of turn. If the holder's stability gauge is not at maximum, gains continuous stamina regen 2 for 1 turn. And so let's go up there. And so that one is that even? Okay, right here. Recovers 2 points of stability index at the end of action. Considered a buff. So this one's just going to make it where you can get your stability up. It's really nice to have HP plus the 5%. Especially if you're heavily investing in Springfield Dupes, because that increases her damage. But other than that, this one is good for stability, but nothing too crazy. I like to get more damage out of my common keys, unless it's got something else situationally that can help with damage. Not too bad, though. I mean, it's a unique key that could be valuable where placed. Probably we'll just throw it right on Springfield, though, just for the extra HP overall, because there aren't that many HP keys that are good for damage dealers if you have a lot of dupes. But now let's go ahead and look at the dupes. The first one, V1, the biggest one, the one that I'll say even free to play should get here. Celestial Aid increases H. So this one is for her skill 2 here, the Celestial Aid. Increases HP restored to 130% attack, enhances the effect of overflowing care to increasing HP restored to 15% of the caster's attack, and increases the upper limit of the Hydro damage increased to 70%. So now that overhealing goes to 70%. So you can give him a 70% Hydro damage increase. That's huge by itself. The biggest part of it, though, is this one. Applies 6 stacks of shared telepathy to the ally. And this is the big one that pairs extremely well with Tololo, but it also works really good with Nikita as well. But Tololo is going to be the big one that this is going to be huge for us right off the bat. Shared telepathy is, if the holder's active attack deals Hydro damage, increases Confectance Index by 1 point. Only effective once. This is considered a Hydro type buff and cannot be dispelled. Now it gives you 6 stacks of this, so you can take advantage of this 6 times. When it says it's effective once, it means you lose a stack effectively. Why it's huge on Tololo is, as you know, she gets an extra turn, she gets an extra turn if she gets max Confectance Index. She already has built into her kit a bunch of ways that get Confectance Index, but then she's also going to get her common key, which, or not a common, her expansion key, that where after using an active skill increases Confectance Index by 2 points. If any allied units except self deals Hydro damage, decreases the cooldown of Black Hole. And so how this all works out, just to kind of, I'll probably make another video that kind of explains it all, but the short end of the story is she can take an extra turn 3 times every single round if you set it up correctly, because she's able to get the equivalent of a full stack of Confectance Index twice every single turn with this buff, plus her own expansion key, as well as the Confectance Index she gains through her skills and her passive. So it's absolutely massive. Tololo is currently, I think, on the tier list at tier 2. She's going to go to the tip top of that tier list as the highest damage dealer in the game as soon as Springfield comes out, if you get the V1. Now, V1's not necessary for Tololo to be good. Tololo's going to be good without it, because she's still going to get those extra turns way more often. And I've heard people say Tololo's still T0 even without V1 on Springfield, because she's still getting a lot of extra turns with her expansion key. But this one just makes her even above and beyond. She's just absolutely broken with it. And this is why I'd say, even for my free-to-plays, her V1 is a really good pickup. because Tololo herself is a standard unit that you can invest your standard pulls in to get more dupes of. And she gets really... You want to get V2 on her. I forgot to mention that as well. But even after V2, she gets stronger and stronger. So that's why that one's big. But let's just go ahead and go into the other ones, because everything else after this is now making Springfield even better as a damage dealer and are very good as well. So V2 increases Confectance Index gained by 3 points, increases HP restored to 120% attack, increases stability gained by 4 points, increases the number of debuffs cleansed by 1, and additionally cleanses Stun Infatuated. This isn't one of the big breaking points, so nothing too crazy on this one. But it is nice that you're giving yourself that increasing Confectance Index gained to 3 points versus 2 instead. It's going to make it much easier to trigger the passive here with the extra action. So that's kind of the big thing with that one, but this is not a stopping point if you're wanting to invest into her. You either want to go V1 or you're going to go straight to V3. V3 is a new effects added to Taurez. Taurez increases hydro damage received to the target that he is targeting by in a 3-tile radius by 10%. If Taurez is on the field, increases hydro damage dealt outside of one's action by 40%. So that one is a very good one as well for your people's support actions that deal hydro damage. Who knows what we could see in the future with hydro and support actions. So this is going to be like a very good future-proof support thing from him. When an ally deals hydro damage with an active attack to the followed target, Taurez activates action support against the enemy, dealing hydro damage equivalent to 20% of Springfield's max HP, and with stability damage, and restores HP equivalent to 20% of Springfield's max HP for that allied. This can be activated twice per round. So I think that's an upgrade to the standard part of the kit here. But overall, just increasing the overall damage that he can do. So it's increasing the damage, makes your buffs better. Overall, really, really good there. Then we'll go to V4. Increases damage to 150% attack. Increases hydro damage received by enemies applied with false intelligence and stability by 20%. So now false intelligence has gotten a buff to what it's applying to the enemy. And then Cold Wave is implied instead of damp for 1 turn with intelligent tactics. So that one is... Where is it? Cold Wave. All healing received is converted into fixed damage taken. This is considered a hydro type debuff. So bosses are something that heals themselves. Now instead of it just stopping healing, that healing is now converted to damage to them instead with Cold Wave. So it's made the debuff even better. You have that. So that was out. Nothing crazy, but it's nice. But if you're going to go into this amount of investment, you want to push all the way to V6. So V5 increases the effective range by 1 tile. New effect is added for buried bonds. Decreases damage received by 15%, so more tankiness. And increases the duration by 1 round, so you can keep it on them longer. Increases the duration of Taurez by 1 round. That's big. Keeping him on the field is important. When the target that Taurez is following dies, deals fixed damage equivalent to 40% of Springfield's attack to all enemies within a 4-tile radius of the target. That one's not too big a deal. It's nice. She's going to do a nice AoE. But just remember, when you're investing in her dupes, you're going to be investing in HP over attack. So Springfield's attack is going to be low in comparison to your HP for Taurez. So nothing too crazy, but nice little bit of damage there. But then you got V6, which is the next big upgrade. Taurez is upgraded to Taurez Assault. So he just gets a new name, I guess. But when Taurez Assault attacks, all effects are doubled. So double everything that Taurez does. Increasing the damage multiplier of hydro damage dealt by 20%. Increasing stability damage dealt by 1 point. Increasing the healing multiplier by 20%. And increasing the number of times an effect can be triggered per round by 2. And before attacking, applies vulnerability analysis on the target for 2 turns. Vulnerability analysis is increasing hydro damage received by 5%. It can be stacked up to 3 times. And it's considered a hydro debuff. And that is pretty much it there. But massive, massive damage increase for Taurez there. And that's why you'll see, like, right here, where it comes to... your main set is the hydro, regardless. But this is going to change based on whether or not you're going V6 or V0, or lower than V6. So your normal picks are HP, HP, attack, attack for your substats if you're going the just low dupes. If you're going max dupes, HP, HP, crit, crit damage, because now she's basically become a damage dealer at V6. And so when we look at her weapon, Faith Piercer here, after healing an ally restores 2 stability of herself, this effect can be activated once per round. So just a nice little buff to them. But the big thing in her weapon, and her weapon is really good itself as well, increases hydro damage dealt for all allies. She's got 2 really good damage dealing allies, Tololo, and then eventually Nikita when we should get her. 5% there. Increases max HP for self by 15%. That's a massive increase on just the 1 copy. If you decide to go full whale mode and you get 40% at max dupe. And then when using an active healing skill, applies attack up 2 for 2 turns. So she's got an easy way to get attack 2 on all of your allies when she heals them. Very massive. That only needs 1 copy. There's no max dupes. The only thing dupes do is increase the HP from this. This is a very good weapon for 1 dupe only. So overall, very good weapon as well on her. And that is pretty much it. I think I've covered everything on Springfield here. But as you can kind of see, she is extremely good. Not only because she heals well, she's basically got, like, to me, I think she's a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit weaker on the sustain side than Suomi. But as everybody knows, you don't need Suomi level of sustain for anything in this game at this point. Now we have EX mode that's adding new conditions that are quite hard that could potentially need stronger sustain. But Springfield is really, really good at it, especially if you go high dupes. But V6 is very big for her becoming basically a damage dealer. But even if you don't want to go to that level, just go to V1. V1 is a very good spot. If you can't get V1 on this one, just try and get 1 copy, and then you can go ahead and pull for a 2nd copy on her rerun. But she is one, much like Vector, where the V1 is huge. Now, I will agree with one thing that I've heard people say is it does seem the direction they're going with a lot of units, a lot of the most recent units. The V1s are very big on all of them, but none of them have been at the level of what Springfield's is at this point. And Springfield being a support, she's going to be a lot more long-lasting to your account than any of the damage dealers with good V1. And when it comes to investing in dupes on all of the Hydra units, which includes Nikita, Flowance, Tololo's her own separate because she's a standard unit. But those, Springfield is the one that you want to invest in the dupes over the other ones until you max her out. I wouldn't go for dupes in Flowance or Nikita until you max Springfield out. You might have an argument for low dupe V1 Nikita over going above V1 in Springfield. But other than that, Springfield's your go-to if you're going to get dupes in the Hydra team at this point. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's her kit. Definitely one of the best units in the game that has not been overtaken yet, which is probably good. It's similar to Klukai, where we want to avoid them trying to power creep with this level of power because of how good she is. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Just let me know what your thoughts are, Springfield, and what your plans are pulling for her. But if you like my content, if you could like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.